Well, welcome everyone. My name is Sonia Bingaman, and I'm the manager of the Sacramento office for the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. We're glad you could join us. It's December 15th. We just finished our RAC meeting, our advisory committee meeting, and now we're going to have a presentation about a very exciting new program. And we are happy to have the two people who are most influential in getting this program going as our guests today. And I want to thank Elaine Lynn for inviting them and arranging for this training. So I'm going to turn it over to Beth and Leonard and let them go ahead and start informing us about this exciting program. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure you'll allow questions at some point, and feel free in the meantime, if you have a question, to put it in the chat and we will monitor that as well. So I will turn it over to you. Thank you so much.
Sure, it's really, thank you very much for the invitation. We're excited about this program, which is really a plane that we're building while we fly it right now. So we may not have all the details, but we really welcome this opportunity. So I'm the director of the Mind Institute, and we recently received a grant from the Department of Education to really move this program forward, and something that Beth has really been working on and for a long time to make this happen. And so this really is a testament to her persistence and skill. And so just a little bit about program background. And these are probably a few bullet points you already are well aware of. Young adults with an intellectual disability largely express the same hopes and dreams as their typically developing peers. Unfortunately, they don't have the options really to realize those hopes and dreams. 66,000 college-age individuals with intellectual disability in California have almost no support to kind of go on that path. As just a few examples, only 53% of California students with intellectual disability graduate high school in 4 years, most age out. As you also probably know, poor employment outcomes for Californians with intellectual disability. And this is true nationally as well. Only about 12% of adults with intellectual disabilities receive wages compared to 30% nationally, so we do worse there. And only 2% of adults with intellectual disabilities have individual supported employment placements. And as family members know, kind of the end of high school is like falling off a cliff and starting over again with a complex under-resourced system to make life optimal for a youth with intellectual disabilities.
Leonard, for some reason, we're not seeing the bottom of your screen, or at least I'm not.
Oh, is everyone having that problem?
Did you notice that on the last line?
Yes. You couldn't see that last sentence, Len.
Okay, well, let me know if that keeps up. I'm not sure exactly what I can do about that, but hopefully you'll see most of it, if not all of it. So let me know if it happens on this slide as well, okay? And so we really think that this college experience really is a right for people with intellectual developmental disabilities. They need to kind of have the same opportunities as their neurotypical peers. And we have good data that college can improve outcomes in health, job opportunities, community engagement, relationships, and really help fulfill the promise of inclusion. And just as a couple of factoids, 60% of TIPSID college program graduates have a paid job within 90 days of graduation. And then 77% of students who are enrolled in these programs actually complete the program, which is probably as good, if not maybe a little bit better than neurotypical college students. And can you see this last point on last bullet?
Yes, you can see that.
So there are no four-year residential inclusive college programs in California. And so ours will be the first, and we're very excited about that. The Redwood Seed Scholars Program will begin to fill this gap and build on the excellent work in inclusive K-12 education that goes on in the state of California. And if you have questions about why we're calling it the Redwood Seed Scholars Program, Beth can fill you in on that at the end. We want this to be just as life-changing for typical, as it is for typical UC Davis undergraduates. And for those of you who have attended college, if you think back to your college experience, it really was an opportunity for you to mature, figure out a professional path, figure out a personal path, have a good time, create friendships, And we really want all of that for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities as well. And the thing that we really want to have happen is we want our program to be successful, but we want it really to be a model for other UC campuses and beyond. We would like to really generate many more programs so that we have really an opportunity throughout the state for young people with intellectual disabilities to go to college. Some program basics. This is a partnership between the Mine Institute and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at UC Davis. Renetta Tull, who's the Vice Chancellor, has been incredibly supportive and sees this as simply another dimension of equity, diversity, and inclusion for UC Davis and fulfilling our commitment to the state. It's a 4-year program. It will be individualized for each student with regular advising and monitoring. It's a combination in terms of kind of academic curriculum. It's going to be a combination of existing UC Davis courses that are adapted so that they really fit principles of universal design and are accessible, as well as some program-specific courses. Inclusive residential options. In fact, we already have the residence house picked out and have support there. The idea is also for all of our students to be included in UC Davis extracurriculars. And I don't know if you can see all of this. I apologize if you can't. I'll read this last bullet. We are really kind of a cornerstone of what we're doing, our internships and competitive integrated employment options at UC Davis Health, state government, local businesses, and actually we also have been contacted by really kind of global companies who want to help participate as well. And so we really want the endpoint here to be not only a great college experience, we want this to lead to meaningful employment that matches the goals and the interests of the individual. And so we really are going to try and build in supports for success. We would like every one of our students that are enrolled to succeed. And so we will have undergraduate peer mentors and tutors. We're going to work with UC Davis faculty to make sure that they're following inclusive practices and universal design. We'll train housing staff in inclusive practices. As we go further, we'd like to work with local schools so that we can help them better prepare their students for the college experience. And then we'll have behavior and education consultants to really teach and support mentors, tutors, faculty, and staff. Because again, we want every single student to be successful and we want to create the systems to support to make that happen. Here's our timeline. In year 1, which we are in right now, we just got the funding in October from the Department of Education. So we're going to establish our program, recruit our first cohort. They will be on campus in fall of 2021, providing that the pandemic cooperates with our plans. And we'll have 12 students, and then we'll add another 12 students in 2022, another 12 in 2023. And then we will work with other, at that point, we will hire staff to work with other UC campuses and CSU campuses. We have a great partnership already with Sac State, and they are, many of their faculty are on board with this already. And then in the final year of the grant, we'll recruit our 4th cohort, continue to work with other campuses, and then do a program evaluation. And so here are some just bullet points in terms of things that you all and your networks can do to help us in terms of the possibilities of supporting this program and moving forward. And I think definitely one of the things that we've learned is that institutions of higher education are highly competitive. And so if you go to your alma mater and say, UC Davis is doing this, why aren't you? You'll be surprised what action you get. And so we're really incredibly pleased with the support we're already getting. And I have to say the families, we have been, certainly we're not going to meet the demand with 12 students each cohort. We know that, and families want more, and we really want to help them have that. And so inclusive college is definitely possible. And this is what it looks like with college students asking for money from home, no matter whether they're neurotypical or have a disability or other special needs. And so that's really all we wanted to give you, just kind of the flavor of the program. We're working really hard to create this program. There's a lot of work to be done between now and the fall quarter. And the last thing I'll say, and then I will stop sharing and I'll let you ask questions. We have been really so pleased with the support we've gotten from everyone at UC Davis. There's a lot of bureaucratic hurdles to deal with in any large system, and certainly the UC system is no exception. But the level of support that we've had from the chancellor, the vice chancellor from the health system, the vice chancellor for diversity, equity, inclusion, people in housing, people in admissions, everyone has been so excited about this program and really see this as a perfect fit for UC Davis right now at this time. So we're excited about the possibilities. So Beth, you want to add anything, and then we'll just open it up for questions.
No, you did a great job, Len.
Oh, thanks. I'm getting good at this after a while. Beth gives me all the information and I just say it.
Looks like Joyce might have a question. Does Joyce have a question, or is she just raising her hand?
No, I actually have a question, and I know you are going to have the program at UC campuses and possibly at the state universities as well. What about the community colleges? Because a lot of students, for various reasons, start at the community college level and transfer to a four-year institution. So is there any thought to giving them some guidance?
Absolutely. So California created this really huge blueprint about 4 years ago. It's called the California Blueprint. You can find it. And all of their effort has been at the community college level. So there's, they're called College to Career, or C2C, and then the number 2 and then C programs. And they're up and down the state. There's currently 15 of them. So they're available at your local community college. So I feel like California's community college system, that started a while ago, like 4 years ago or 5 years ago. So they're pretty going. But what we know for our students with intellectual disabilities is that the residential piece is what allows the students to really move into adulthood residential living on their own or semi-independently with support. And so that's why there's only currently Fresno State has some residential, but it's 2 years. And then I think that's it. I think, oh, maybe UCLA might have some residential, that's 2 years. So in our whole entire state, there's only 2 opportunities for residential living in an inclusive situation. So our program will have 4 years of residential living, 2 on campus in the dorms, then moving off the 3rd year, moving still on campus, but more distant and in an apartment-like setting. And then the last year, totally off campus in an apartment. So really giving that traditional college experience of living that typical kids have, same for our students. So that we feel, what we know is that even if you go to these programs, that this transition is still really hard into adulthood. So we feel like this can be, step by step to get that chance.
And there's, Beth, there are a few questions in the chat. I'll read one and then you and I can either answer them together or separately. Are there any models in the US that we're hoping to emulate that we can look at? And so there is the website for Think College you can go to, and they list all of the TIPS funded programs and other programs. I think what's unique about relatively unique about our program is that there really aren't that many 4-year inclusive residential programs. Beth, about how many do you think there are nationally?
There's currently 26. Okay. 26 in the whole nation. Now some states, like South Carolina, has 5 of those. So Georgia has like 3 of those. So that's what's funny, is some states have a ton. California has 0, except for us. We're the first one. This funding came in 2010 was the first round of funding. So we're about 10 years behind in building these programs in the state of California. And that is a big problem because a lot of people don't even know about this here in California. So we really do want you guys who are family members to share with other families and, ripple it into schools, ripple it into your networks, so young families can know about this and preschool families can know about this, because we want people to just make their decisions that they're making for their children in the beginning of their lives with this idea that this opportunity is at least available for them.
Right. And another question is, what's the cost to the student and what does the application process look like? I'll take the cost and you can do the application process, Beth. So we don't know the cost yet. And this is probably more details than you need to know, but right now we're going to start the program as kind of a special program through the Office of Continuing and Professional Education. And so that will be at a kind of a different rate than a typical tuition. And we're just doing that because that's a quicker route to starting the program rather than getting like full approval all the way through the UC system. The residential option will cost exactly the same as it costs for typical UC Davis undergraduates. What our grant is really allowing us to do, so we're not allowed to use it as scholarships. The grant is really to kind of create the program and to hire additional staff to do training of all of the other staff who are already in place who would serve the students, whether they were typically developing or not. And we are going to work with regional centers so that they can provide assistance. We have a meeting tomorrow, actually, with Alta Regional Center, who reached out to us because they were so excited about the program. And so I think that, we're hoping that we can work with other state agencies around internships and job coaching and things like that to help make this a really successful program and minimize the costs. But there will be costs associated with the program. It's just a little unclear right now. And so, Beth, do you want to talk about the application process?
Sure. So the application process will be online through a link. Our goal is to make it as embedded into the UC Davis application process for a typical student as it is possible. They will fill out an application. So I just want to make it very clear, this is a non-degree seeking program.
Mm-hmm.
So your students are not going to be coming out with a Bachelor of Arts or Science.
No.
This is non-degree seeking. And the reason I want to make that clear is because, we're going to parallel the student experience academically. So they will have targeted instructions in separate coursework. Then they will have seminars unified with typical and neurotypical students, and then access to courses that are UC Davis courses that people love to take. So it really is an employment focus. So there will be having internships and employment opportunities every quarter after the first quarter that they get in. So it's really focusing on employment, living skills. So in the residential, so there's 5 parts to our program, right? It's the core academics. So keep pushing their literacy and math forward. Budgeting, sexual health, those kinds of things, the access to the UC Davis courses, the living, the residential living, the employment and job internships, and then the social inclusion, participating in extracurriculars. So although it's not a degree seeking course, you're getting all of those things. So you're building all the skills so that you can live an adult life as a person with an intellectual disability with support. And the application, you will apply online. We already have so many people, right, who are interested. You do have to have an identified intellectual disability to apply. That's our federal funding bare minimum. So those kids who are caught, who might have autism but could potentially get a degree, those are not the kids for this program. So just so you know, because we've had a lot of those families reach out. But anyway, you apply, then we cull the applications and see who would be the best fit for our first cohort. And we interview those kids. We hopefully can bring them to campus and have them see the residential options and our campus. And then from there, we make the determinations, we offer admission, and then those families and the student decide to come or not. And when we have our orientation and we begin.
So Beth, could you also, this is kind of it follows on that, but it's anticipating, I think, a couple of questions that have come up around what students will end up with at the end. And could you talk about the issue of a meaningful credential and how we're working toward that?
So in 2010, 10 years ago, when that first federal funding came to build these programs, they created a kind of a clearinghouse of information, and that is thinkcollege.net. So that gets TIPSID funding, federal funding too. So So in 2010, these programs, 24 programs got money. They started building. Nobody knew what they were building, where they were going. And a lot of them were focused on just the experience, just getting kids on campus and living there, and not really building employment or building these skills as intentionally, because they were just so excited to get kids on campus, right? But now, 10 years later, we have a lot of data on the best programs with the best outcomes and what to do. And we know that employment is our focus and living wage is a focus. So I lost my train of thought. Meaningful credential. So the meaningful credential, you think college and the people there have been working to matriculate and find a common thread that all these programs have across the country, so that to develop a meaningful credential. And we believe that by the end of our 4 years, that will be well developed or well underway. And most likely we'll be able to use the credential that they have created, but it will be basically a credential that explains their skill development and their academic development and their independent development.
And let me just also mention that we really are, as we're working on with businesses and so on around internships, we're really finding that the businesses that make the best partners are those that really want this not to be a one-off internship, but they want to work toward employment, which is what we want for our students as well. So what we want them to not just leave having a great 4-year experience and then not having anything. We want them to end up with jobs that they are prepared for, that they can be successful at, and that they want. And so we're trying to really partner with agencies and businesses that kind of have that same mindset. And so far, we're really pleased with kind of the level of commitment we have from potential partners. There's lots of other questions. Can students apply for FAFSA? I think that the answer is yes, but Beth can verify that.
So we have to become what's called a CTP. So if you go to Think College and you look at all the different options. So if you go to thinkcollege.net, you'll see a map of the United States, and you can click on California and you can see the programs. So you'll see 15 community college programs. You'll see Fresno State's program, and you'll see Taft College and UCLA program. And now ours is on the website now. Mm-hmm. So when you click there, you'll see CTP, Certified Transition Program. You want that designation. If you get that designation, you can definitely get FAFSA, but we are having to apply for that designation. We won't be able to have it the first year because we have to prove what we're doing is transition. So it'll probably take us a few years to get it, but it shouldn't take us very long. And then when you do that, you can apply for Pell Grants, also all federal funding you can apply for. And not to mention, we do have our regional centers who have a proven track record of supporting Fresno State students for their time.
So Lisa has a question. Leonard, can you hold for just for a second and let Lisa, are you able to ask your question?
I wrote it in the chat, but I will repeat it.
Go ahead.
How are students who have ID prepared for college? Our education system isn't known for doing that.
Exactly. So you're exactly right, Lisa. And so what is exciting about this, and the data, we have the data that proves this. So Nevada has 2 good programs, University of Nevada, Reno, and University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Both have programs. They're not 4 years, and they're still figuring out their residential. But what has happened in Las Vegas, because Las Vegas is kind of remote, is their school districts are having all sorts of families say, hey, see UNLV over here? My kid is going there. So my kid needs to have the skills. So their reading isn't happening here. And I know they need this level of reading to be successful at UNLV. And so it's starting to really pressure the K-12 programs. And that's happening nationwide. So it's basically like chicken or the egg. Like, do you build the programs after you have a fantastic K-12 inclusive, program going, or do you make a fantastic K-12 program because you have this outcome standing over here with an amazing opportunity. And you do not need a high school diploma to apply because we recognize every school district is so different. Every state is so different with those needs. We don't have uniformity yet. We can't get there. Hopefully we will get there someday.
So one of the other questions has to do with kind of the age range of the program. And we're still kind of working on that for some technical reasons, but in general, we think it's going to be between 18 and mid-20s. It's a little, there are some issues that we have to work on with in terms of the age limits in residential housing at UC Davis, but our original plan was to make it for between 18 and 25, 26. And that was based on some of the requirements of the funding agency, but we're having to work on that a little bit, and so we don't have all of that. The other thing I should say is that we have if you go to the Mind Institute, under the education tab, there is a website, a web page for the program, and it has a little bit of detail there because we're still working on it, obviously. But there's also forms you can complete so that you can get information if you're interested in applying. That there's information about. You can give us a contact information so we can give you updates when it's appropriate. If you're interested in volunteering in the program, that's there as well. And so I'd encourage you to, if you're interested, to take a look at that as well. And we're anticipating applications, and Beth is working really hard on this right now, putting the application and the process together. We're hoping by the end of January, early February, that this will be online and that folks can apply then.
Two questions for you, Leonard. Will you be willing to share your slides that I could share out with everyone on the call?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then also Joyce asked a question, will information technology be included in the curriculum? I'm not sure, Joyce, if you want to expand on that or if that makes sense to you, Beth or Leonard.
Okay, to expand on it, I just know that a lot of self-advocates are very skilled in information technology. And if they could receive additional training, this would be a great job opportunity for many.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah, I think certainly we want all of our students to have at least some minimal level of proficiency, and we would support that so that they can participate in campus life. And I think that so much is technology based. I think the other thing in terms of employment options is we really want to make sure that kind of at the center of our program is self-determination, and so that we really want people to, we want to make sure we support their interests. At the same time, recognizing that just like neurotypical college students, what they're interested in may change over the course of the first couple of years, right? And so, so we're trying to be flexible and also to have and this will take us a while, right? I mean, I think we want to end up having a range of options in terms of accessible courses. We want to have a range of options in terms of employment and internship, and we'll build that a little at a time. Although I think we've already done a pretty good job, largely because of Beth knowing everyone in the state of California. I think that we have a lot of people who have signed on and are really supportive of this. So I think we'll have a lot of those options. But yeah, I think information technology has to be a part of it.
It's definitely one of our courses, targeted courses. Looks like Karen might have a question.
Yes, I can't raise my hand because I'm still a co-host. One of the reasons I was asking the question about what age services will start is that typically in the regional center system, the presumption is that individuals up until age 22 will have many of their needs met by the school system. And therefore there is no regional center funding for certain programs until they are older than 22. However, that's not necessarily the case for things like some certain residential services. Residential campus, that would, you know, that your students would qualify for, and that might be a solution to address the housing costs, because, you know, not all families are going to be able to afford this, and I'd hate for economics to be a factor in access to this program. So just throwing a few things out there.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think you're right. And that's one of the reasons we want to talk to the regional centers to see what they're able and willing to support and the best ways for us to meet that. And again, you know, we're doing our best to make this like as a perfect a program as we can from the start. But my guess is a lot of these things we're going to have to build over time. But we also have reached out already to the program at Fresno State, which is a 2-year program. And they've been incredibly helpful and continuing, and they want to help us as well. And so I think they've actually had pretty good luck in terms of getting funding for their students. So, so again, you know, this is not going to be set in stone in terms of how this works right away, but we'll keep building at that. Because you're right, I think one of the things that when we first presented this program to the chancellor at UC Davis and his leadership committee, one of the things that they raised was that they don't want this to be a program that's only accessible to a few. And so they really had really strong, you know, commitment and questions about how we reach out to families. And so Maribel Hernandez, who's on this call, she's already, she's going to be part of this program. We want to make sure that we reach out to Spanish-speaking families in the area. And we really do want to make this as accessible as possible. But it's really going to require, honestly, partnerships and commitment from regional centers, voc rehab, and all these other things. And we're going to work as hard as we can to make that happen. And I think this is a great opportunity. And the fact that Alta reached out to us to initiate that conversation, I think is really important. And they have wonderful folks there that are really committed to this as well. I think Cindy was on, I don't know if she's still on. And so again, no one has said to us at any point, bad idea, it will cost too much, any of those sorts of things. Now they may, but so far everyone has been really supportive.
Yeah, oh, it sounds wonderful.
Joyce says, concerning affordability, have you considered using cooperative housing models where students participate in the upkeep of the housing? I think that meant, Joyce, you're offering to show up and help with cleaning. Is that what? Just kidding. It sounds like living in the dorms for the first 2 years is the goal to have that experience. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. But we would expect that the students would probably transition to off-campus housing, and maybe that's that kind of co-op approach it makes sense then. I would also say that we haven't, I don't think that we've settled on this, but we're not going to require that every student lives on campus. For some students, they may live at home. I mean, our goal though, I mean, honestly, the ideal would be for students to have the full experience. And I think the social element and the extracurriculars is going to be a part of it. The other thing that is going to be an element of the program too is physical health. And we have, you know, my institute is administratively within UC Davis Health. And our vice chancellor, when I asked him for a letter of support, wrote back in literally 15 seconds saying, absolutely. And we're going to try and think of ways to involve medical students and people from the health camp so that they can. UC Davis Health has just opened up, or is getting ready to open up within a week, a clinic, UC Davis Health clinic on the Davis campus. And so that's kind of an ideal situation there. So we want that to be part of it as well.
Great questions. I'm going to launch a poll quickly, and then we'll continue on with a few more minutes of questions. This poll actually says satisfaction with the RAC meeting, but just interpret that as satisfaction with this presentation on the SEED program. The first question is, did you learn something new today? And you should be able to go, I see people going ahead and filling it out. The second question is, are you satisfied with this activity, this training? So if you can answer those two questions, and we can leave that up for just a minute and then go ahead and continue to ask questions. I see, what are the behavioral expectations from students applying for the program with behaviors like impulsivity and aggression?
So I would say, and I want Beth to certainly chime in here, we're trying to be as inclusive as possible. I mean, I think that there are going to be some elements that we really need students to be able to do, you know, some level of independence, like taking medication and things like that. But we haven't really come to a whole set of criteria to rule people out. I think we want to be as inclusive as possible and recognize that the success of the program is not just dependent on the students, it's dependent on us and our ability to support them in whatever they need. So I don't know that we're there with details yet about all of those issues. We're still kind of working on that. But Beth, you want to talk about that a little bit? And Beth's son has gone to a great program at George Mason, and I think has really had a great experience. And so Beth kind of is not. So I'm on this kind of as the academic end. Beth has kind of lived experience on this, and so maybe Beth, you can talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So, well, Patrick, so the George Mason University program is 20 years old. So they've been at this for 20 years. So they have, so what has happened in that community, which is Fairfax, Virginia, is they have about 10 different houses that have been purchased by different families for graduates that now live there. So many, many graduates now live within this community and are, so there's like 75 graduates who are living in community, having jobs, being part. So there's this whole alumni network now happening after just 20 years. So what, as far as, so the first students who attended George Mason, I don't know who they were, but Patrick's year, he started in 2018, fall of 2018. There were 12 students. They were not, you know, I call them gifted and talented children with disabilities. They were very average students. People with seizure disorders and autism, people with Down syndrome, people with Fragile X syndrome, high need individuals who were supported, who were accepted, welcomed, and supported through their thing. Now, when Patrick applied, he did have to have a letter from his high school principal that did speak to his behaviors. And in our case, with our first group, we're going to have our students, because they're really going to have to be unicorns, right? Because they're starting out for everybody and helping all of us. So we might have to be more careful in that regard and grow to accept students with a lot more needs. But our vision is we want those kids, we want all kids to have this opportunity if they're a good fit for our program. There are a lot of programs across the country, and the goal is hoping to find the fit that fits best for you. We want to support your student for success, and we want to give your student, build those skills. You don't have to have those skills coming in. That's our dream, right? So, we don't know who those 12 students are yet, and we haven't seen any applications yet, but our dream is to find the ones who will be the right fit for this first year. We'll grow some, they'll grow some, and then the next group will be a little bit more, and each year will grow. At least that's our vision. What do you think, Glenn?
No, I agree. I think, I think one of the other questions is kind of the level of math and reading skills. And I think there too, I think we see that as part of our responsibility to kind of help build some of those skills. And I think it goes back to Lisa's point, and I think Beth is exactly right, that I think that having programs like this kind of change the expectations at the elementary and the high school levels. And I think that will have, I think students will begin to be better prepared because there's something to prepare them for. And I think it's a different kind of argument, right? And so, again, I think this is really about systems change, and we're under no delusion that this is going to be easy.
No.
And, again, 12 students starting this first year is not going to change everything, but I think, we have more programs and go from there. And the other thing is, I think the fact that UC Davis is starting this and we're part of the UC system, I think that creates pressure within the UC system to do more. UCLA has done a great job in a 2-year program, and it would be great if they could build that into a 4-year residential program. And I think other UC campuses should be doing the same thing. And so, I would like to think that the pace of change will will be speeded up by our program, I hope. So we'll see.
Go ahead, Donnell.
I have a question. I had made a comment earlier. We need to make sure that the participants present at the Mind Summer Institute, because we're going to all want to see how things go. But I also, is someone going to be available? Because you're right, this is systems change. This is going to change some mindsets
Big
about education
systems change.
in this area. Yes, but we also need someone who has the vision to hold some hands, because they're not going to believe this. And I'm like, will you be available, Beth? Or will there be someone that we can contact to come out and present it to a large group that you gave us, but it's have someone who believes in it and caters to see that here's a new standard.
Well,
This is where we're going.
I work in the School of Education at UC Davis. I work in the multiple subject program, supporting beginning teachers to supervise them as they're in their things. So I'm in a lot of classrooms and I see a lot of teachers, and part of our grant is for training teachers and giving them access to universal design for learning best practices and all of those things. So we will definitely be reaching out to local school districts and to SELPAs for sure. And it is for sure up to teachers to know that this is possible. Yes, I'm super accessible. Davis Joint Unified is a fully inclusive school district and has been since the 1960s. So if anybody wants to see full inclusion happening, they can come visit, or now they can just get a Zoom link and come watch what full inclusion looks like in these preschool through high school classrooms. And it is stunning and amazing. My son went to Da Vinci High School. It's project-based learning, tech-focused, inclusive public high school that is doing amazing work, and all California schools should know about it. There's also this thing called Supporting Inclusive Practices that's happening through California Department of Education, Special Education Division, where districts can get monies to improve their inclusive practices. So there's money available to train teachers and superintendents and paraeducators at the district level from the state. So you can go to SIP Inclusion, I think it's .org, to see. It could be .com.
So the other thing I'll add to that is that built into the grant in years 4 and 5, we actually are hiring a staff person, and their job will be to do outreach to schools and to other campuses to talk to them about our model, and also to serve as a consultant, an unpaid consultant to them, to help them, So I think convincing teachers, I think, is important, but it's also going to be to convince administrators that they want to do this on these campuses. And so having a consultant for free, I think, is part of our model. So we're going to be very proactive. Rather than having people come out to us and say, oh, we heard about this, we would like to go and, really kind of gently prod them to do this. And so that we'll have a staff person that will do that in years 4 and 5.
Thank you. Great. Can I just ask, Grace, do you have a question or no question? Just wanted to give
Andrew, I'm sorry. Andrew's been wanting to be part of this meeting. I'm kind of holding him back, but he's really excited about the program. He wants to be in the full inclusive environment. Right, Andrew? Mm-hmm. So what would you say? How old are you? 19 years old. 19. And actually, we're right now getting ready for him to work, but we didn't want to miss out on this. So we kind of did part of the meeting there at home, and we rushed to his work in order for him to be part of it. So he just wanted to, let you know that he wants to, do the application process.
Andrew, thank you so much for being a part of this meeting, and thank you for raising your hand, and glad you got to say hello. We're glad you were here.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Beth, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No problem. I'm so excited you're going to work, Andrew.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say I can't remember, but Oh, I know what I was going to say. So here's what I tell families when they want to talk about inclusion at the school level and schools are resistant. You just use their outcomes. So you just say, can I see the outcomes for your students with intellectual disabilities graduating high school? Can you tell me what percentage of them go on to inclusive college programs, or what percent get paid employment? What percent, what's their reading level? Their outcomes are terrible, really bad. So they need to be held accountable for those outcomes. And we have the data that when a student with an intellectual disability is fully included in the typical classroom, their outcomes are better academically and socially, but not just those kids, typical kids too. Their academics improve. Why? Because the education is better, the teachers improve. So what you're doing when you advocate for inclusion for your child is actually improving the academics for your whole school. And you guys all know this, but I'm just saying, if you want to have a tactic, use their outcomes. They have to keep lots of data. They have it. And just say, my kid's in 3rd grade. You're trying to segregate them right now in 3rd grade. What's your outcome for these high school kids right now, this minute? And many do not have good outcomes.
Such a great point, Beth. Yeah, inclusion it's not just about individuals with disabilities, it's for the whole community, and it makes our community more whole and more diverse.
Well, and I just want to say, I was in a meeting where a Clemson computer science major made an app for the Clemson Inclusive College Program. He made 2 apps. And then he shared his apps with this group of a couple hundred people. And we were freaking out at his app because it was amazing. And there was this computer science 19-year-old realizing the impact his studies could have on other people. And the whole time I was like, UC Davis computer science students deserve that chance to see the impact of their work. So this is inclusion helps the kids in K-12, but imagine these undergrads and how influential it will be for them. It will really be changing. That's how we change our communities.
Thank you, Beth. And yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
By making disability an abstraction.
Yeah. Such a great discussion. Thank you so much for your time to come on and start to share about this program. Sounds like there's a lot of balls up in the air and a lot of things still being worked out, which is exciting because you're open to input and seeing how things develop. And, rarely do these things, are just set this way and off they go. We need to adapt them. And so everybody's input is valuable. So thank you for allowing all of us to have this input and discussion. I will share out the recording with all of you. We'll post a link on our page on our website. And I know I've already gotten some private messages of people who say, will you come and share about this to our CAC group or some other group? So I'm sure you'll be in high demand around the state already. So thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you for all of you for joining today and learning about this program that is hopeful. It gives, I think, a lot of us hope for things that we can aim for learn from and grow. So thank you all. Happy holidays. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.
Thanks for this opportunity. Bye, you guys.
Absolutely.